Hello students, how are you all doing? I hope all of you are doing really well. In today's class, we are going to study the chapter The Happy Prince from your Moments book. The Happy Prince is written by Oscar Wilde. The Happy Prince was a beautiful statue. He was covered with gold. He had sapphires for eyes and a ruby in his sword. You can see, students, the statue of Happy Prince. He has gold all over his body. Why did he want to part with all the gold that he had and his precious stones? So the question is, why did Happy Prince wanted to give away all his gold, all his precious stones? So we will find out the answer of this question in the chapter. So let's begin. High above the city, on a tall column, stood the statue of the Happy Prince. He was gilded all over with thin leaves of fine gold. For eyes, he had 2 bright sapphires, and a large red ruby glowed on his sword hilt. So we are talking about the statue of Happy Prince. Okay, it was high above the city on a tall column. And how was the Happy Prince statue? He was gilded. He was covered with all the fine gold, and his eyes were made of 2 sapphires, and on his sword he had a ruby. So students, sapphires and ruby, these are very 2 precious gems. Okay, these are of high value. These are really precious. Okay, so his eyes, he had 2 bright sapphires, and on his sword he had a ruby. Gilded means to be made from or covered with gold. You can see his eyes, the Happy Prince eyes, it's blue in color because sapphires are blue in color. And there's a ruby in his sword, which is pinkish red in color. One night, there flew over the city a little swallow. His friends had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before. So one night what happened? There came a little swallow. Swallow is a bird. And his friends. Whose friends? Yes, the swallow's friend. They had gone away to Egypt 6 weeks before. But he had stayed behind. Then he decided to go to Egypt too. All day long he flew. And at night time he arrived at the city. So his friends had already gone to Egypt. Now this swallow had made up his mind that he should go to Egypt too, to his friends. So all day long he flew, and at night he arrived at the city. So there is a swallow bird which is flying, and you can see it is right above the Happy Prince, the statue of Happy Prince. Okay? Where shall I put up? He said. I hope the town has made preparations. Where shall I put up means the bird is saying, where should I stay? Where should I stay in the city? And then he is saying, I hope the town has made preparations. So the swallow is saying that I hope the town has really made good preparations to welcome me. Had decorated the place for my stay. Really sweet. Then he saw the statue on the tall column. I will put up there, he cried. So as soon as the swallow saw the statue of Happy Prince on the tall column, he said, I will put up there. Means I will stay there. It is a fine position with plenty of fresh air. So since the statue was on a height, okay, he said that, okay, it's a very good position for me to stay. I'll get a lot of fresh air over there. So he alighted just between the feet of the happy prince. Alighted means to come down, to descend from the air and settle. So he settled where? Between the feet of the happy prince. As you can see, the bird has come to the feet of the happy prince, statue of happy prince. I have a golden bedroom, he said softly to himself as he looked round and he prepared to go to sleep. So the happy prince was covered with fine gold. So the swallow said to himself that, oh wow, I have a golden bedroom to myself. He said very softly and he prepared to go to sleep. But just as he was putting his head under his wings, a large drop of water fell on him. So just he was going to sleep, a large drop of water fell on the swallow. What a curious thing, he cried. There is not a single cloud in the sky. The stars are quite clear and bright, and yet it is raining. The swallow said, what a curious thing. It's very strange. There is not a single cloud. The stars are clear and bright, and still it is raining. How is that possible? Then another drop fell. What is the use of a statue if it cannot keep the rain off? He said. So he's thinking that, why am I under the statue? I thought it's a good place for me to stay. It will cover me. It will protect me from rain and harsh sun. But then swallow said, what is the use of the statue? It cannot keep me protected from the rain. So you can see that swallow is really angry and he's making faces as the drop fell on his head. I must look for a good chimney pot. And he determined to fly away. So swallow thought, I will change my place to stay because the statue is not able to protect the swallow. He said, I will look for a good chimney pot for my new house. And he was determined to fly away. But before he had opened his wings, a third drop fell. And he looked up and saw. What did he see? The eyes of the happy prince were filled with tears, and tears were running down his golden cheeks. So you can see in this picture that how the happy prince is crying. And the drops which were falling on the swallow were not the raindrops. Rather, it were the tears of the happy prince which was falling on the swallow. His face was so beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow was filled with pity. So the face of the happy prince was looking so bright and beautiful in the moonlight that the little swallow, he started to feel pity for the happy prince. So pity means the feeling of sorrow and compassion caused by the suffering of others. So when the happy prince was crying, looking at this, the little swallow was filled with pity. Who are you? He said. I am the happy prince. Why are you weeping then? Asked the swallow. You have quite drenched me. So the bird asked, who are you? Prince said, I am the happy prince. So the bird said, you should be happy then if you are happy prince. Why are you crying? Why are you weeping? Weeping means crying. See, you have quite drenched me. I am all wet because of your tears. So bird and the happy prince are talking. When I was alive and had a human heart, answered the statue, I did not know what tears were. For I lived in the palace where sorrow is not allowed to enter. So the happy prince said, when I was alive. I was not dead. And I was having a human heart. Human heart means it indicates he was alive. Now he does not have a human heart. He has an artificial heart because it's a statue, right? So when I was alive, I had a human heart. I did not know what tears were. I was always happy because in my palace, the sorrow was not allowed to enter. Okay, all the people were happy. We all were happy. That is why my name was maybe Happy Prince. So you can see Happy Prince. There, he's looking so happy in his palace. Everything is looking so bright and colorful and happy, isn't it? He's playing with a peacock. My courtiers called me the Happy Prince, and happy indeed I was. So I lived and I died. So the courtiers called him Happy Prince because he was always happy. He did not know what tears were. And now that I am dead, they have set me up here so high that I can see the ugliness and all the misery of my city. So when he was alive, he did not know what sorrow were. But now that he is dead, the people of the city has set him up so high that he can see everything. See, generally when you go on a height, below what is happening, you can see everything, right? But now you can't see everything. You have a very restricted vision. But when you go to a height, when you look down below, you can see a lot of things, isn't it? So now that the Happy Prince statue was high, he could see the ugliness and the misery of his city. And looking at those ugliness, those misery of his city, he had no option but to cry. People are, he can have a good vision from that height. And though my heart is made of lead, yet I cannot choose but weep. So he had no other option but to weep. He is able to see all the ugliness. His heart is made up of lead. Okay, it's a metal. He's not having a human heart. He's dead. What? Is he not solid gold? Said the swallow to himself. He was too polite to make any personal remarks. So actually, Swallow said to himself that is he not solid gold? He was thinking that it's pure gold. But just now, Happy Prince has mentioned that his heart was made up of lead. Far away, continued the statue in a low musical voice. Far away, in a little street, there is a poor house. One of the windows is open, and through it, I can see a woman seated at a table. Her face is thin and worn, and she has coarse, red hands, all pricked by the needle, for she is a seamstress. So now, Happy Prince is telling to the swallow what he is seeing. He said that far away, in a little street, there is a very poor house, and one of the window is open. And through that open window, Happy Prince can see a woman who has seated herself at a table. Her face is very thin and worn. She is tired. She has having coarse red hands means very rough hands. Coarse means rough. And generally, students, the hands which do hard work, they are not soft. They are hard. They are rough. All pricked by the needle. For she is a seamstress. Seamstress is a woman who earns her living by sewing. Okay. So she used to do work of a tailor. She used to make dresses. Okay. She is embroidering flowers on a satin gown for the loveliest of the queen's maids of honor to wear at the next court ball. So what is the seamstress doing? She's embroidering flowers on a satin gown. And who is going to wear that satin gown? The loveliest of Queen's maids of honor. And she will wear it at the court ball. So court ball is like an event where people go and celebrate. They are very happy. They make merry. They eat good food. They wear good dresses. And they dance. Okay, they enjoy. So you can see there's a window open. There is a seamstress who's doing some work. She's looking very tired. And obviously she is poor. In a bed in the corner of the room, her little boy is lying ill. He has a fever and is asking his mother to give him oranges. And in the corner of the room, there is a bed on which a little boy is lying who is not well, who is having fever, and he's asking his mother, who is a seamstress, to give him oranges. His mother has nothing to give him but river water. So he is crying. So mother is so poor that she can't afford to give oranges to the child who is ill. She has nothing but river water. So the child is crying. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword and hilt? My feet are fastened to this pedestal and I cannot move. So here the happy prince is making a request to the swallow. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, will you not bring her the ruby out of my sword hilt? So happy prince wants that swallow should take out the ruby from the sword and give it to the seamstress. Since the feet are fastened, they are tied to the pedestal, he cannot move. Happy prince cannot move. So he's asking for help. So this ruby he's talking about, which is on the sword. I'm waited for in Egypt, said the swallow. My friends are flying up and down the Nile and talking to the large lotus flowers. Soon they will go to sleep. So when Happy Prince asks for help from the swallow, he replies that people are waiting for me. My friends are waiting for me in the Egypt. I have to go. They're enjoying. They're flying up and down the Nile River. And they're talking to large lotus flowers. And now they will go to sleep. The prince asks the swallow to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. So the prince requested swallow to stay with him and become his messenger. The boy is so thirsty and the mother is so sad. He said, I don't think I like boys, answered the swallow. Saying that I don't think I like boys. Why should I help? The boy is thirsty and the mother is also sad. And I don't like boys. I want to go to Egypt. But the happy prince looked so sad that the little swallow was sorry. So the little swallow wanted to go to Egypt. But the happy prince was very sad. So the little swallow was feeling sorry for him. It is very cold here, he said. But he agreed to stay with him for one night and be his messenger. Thank you, little swallow, said the prince. It was very cold in that city, and that is why he wanted to go to Egypt. You know, the migratory birds, they change places because they want to, have a better weather where they can survive. The birds cannot survive in very cold or in very hot, a very hot temperature. So, that is the reason he wanted to go to Egypt. That is why he's saying that it is very cold here. But still, I'll stay one night for you. And to this, Prince says, thank you, little swallow. The swallow picked out the great ruby from the prince's sword and flew away with it in his beak over the roofs of the town. So you can see in this picture, the swallow has plucked the ruby from his sword hilt. He passed by the cathedral tower where the white marble angels were sculptured. So you can see the cathedral there in the picture and also an angel. He passed by the palace and heard the sound of dancing. A beautiful girl came out on the balcony with her lover. I hope my dress will be ready in time for the state ball. This is the same lady who has come out in the balcony with her lover and saying that I hope my dress will be ready in time. I have ordered flowers to be embroidered on it, but the seamstresses are so lazy. So remember, the seamstress was struggling so hard to embroider flowers on her dress, but she is not caring for that. Rather, she thinks that seamstresses are very lazy. They don't work hard. She is not aware of the situation the seamstress is going through. He passed over the river and saw the lanterns hanging on the mast of ships. At last he came to the poor woman's house and looked in. Masts are generally a tall upright post or other structure on a ship in sailing vessels, generally carrying a sail. So he passed over the river and he saw the lanterns which were hanging on the mast of the ship. The boy was tossing feverishly on his bed, and the mother had fallen asleep. She was so tired. So as soon as the swallow entered the house, he saw the boy was very uncomfortable on his bed. He was tossing here and there. And the mother was so tired that she had fallen asleep. You can see she had fallen asleep. And he hopped and laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's thimble. So he went inside and he laid the great ruby on the table beside the woman's thimble. So thimble is a small metal or plastic cap with a closed end which is worn to protect the finger and push the needle in swing. So this is basically to protect the finger. Okay. He kept the ruby beside the thimble. Then he flew gently round the bed, fanning the boy's forehead with his wings. So you can see he was fanning his wings to soothe the boy. "How cool I feel," said the boy. "I must be getting better." And he sank into a delicious slumber. So after the swallow used his wings to fan him, he started to feel better. He started to feel cool. And then he went into a delicious slumber. Slumber means sleep. Then the swallow flew back to the happy prince and told him what he had done. "It is curious," he remarked, "but I feel quite warm now, although it is so cold." So the swallow is saying that it is so cold, but I am feeling warm. It's curious, strange. "That is because you have done a good action," said the happy prince. And the little swallow began to think and then fell asleep. So the swallow was feeling better because he had done a good action. That is why he was feeling warm from inside, The feeling of warmth comes when you do something good for others. And then he began to think and fell asleep. Thinking always made him sleepy. When day broke, he flew down to the river and had a bath. "Tonight I go to Egypt," said the swallow. And he was in high spirits at the prospect. So he thought that, wow, I'm going to Egypt today. He was so happy. He was in high spirits. He was really happy at the prospect. Prospect means the possibility of some future event occurring. So just thinking that he was going to Egypt, it made him so happy that he was enjoying it. He visited all the monuments and sat a long time on top of the church steeple. So before going to Egypt, he visited all the monuments of the city and he sat for a very long time on top of the church steeple. When the moon rose, he flew back to the happy prince. Have you any commissions for Egypt? He cried. I'm just starting. So before leaving for Egypt, the swallow went to Happy Prince and said, do you want to give something for Egypt? Have you any commissions for Egypt? Because I'm just starting to go to Egypt. Swallow, swallow, little swallow, said the prince. Will you stay with me one night longer? I am waited for in Egypt, answered the swallow. So students, you can see that how the Happy Prince wanted to help everyone who was in problem, who wanted money or who wanted help. So Swallow thought he should help the Happy Prince. But every time he was ready to fly to Egypt, the Happy Prince asked him to stay with him one night longer. So here we see that Swallow is now saying that no, I can't. I am waited for in Egypt. My friends are waiting for me. So in the next class, students, we will see whether the swallow flies away to Egypt or he stays back with the Happy Prince to help him. So students, till then you think that what the swallow will do. Will he stay or will he fly away? So before ending the class, students, let's just discuss some of the questions to revise the chapter. The first question is, describe the statue of the Happy Prince. So the answer will be, at the beginning of the story, the statue was fixed on a tall column, full of thin leaves of gold on the body. He had 2 sapphires for eyes, and it had a large red ruby fixed on the hilt of the sword. Okay, second question. Where did the bird decide to stay for the night and why? So students, the answer is, the bird decided to stay near the statue of the prince because it was located on a tall column. And the bird felt he would get plenty of fresh air there. Right? So I hope all of you know the answer. Third question. Why was the statue of the Happy Prince weeping? The answer is, when Happy Prince was alive, he had not known any sorrow. But after his statue had been established, he was able to see all the ugliness and misery of the city. So seeing all this, his heart ached, which made him cry. So students, we will discuss till here, and in the next part, we will see what happens next in the story. So till then, bye, and all of you please take care. See you.